Hollywood's golden age glittered with leading men who embodied perfection, chiseled jawlines, hypnotic eyes, voices that melted hearts across America. They seemed untouchable, blessed by destiny itself. But behind the studio gates and locked hotel room doors, a darker transaction was taking place. Young men with dreams arrived in Los Angeles carrying nothing but ambition and desperation. What they found wasn't a meritocracy of talent. It was a system built on exploitation, where bodies became currency and silence became survival. They were told to undress in producers' offices. They served cocktails at midnight parties where extended services were expected. Some were secretly filmed, blackmailed, and forced to live entire lives in fear that one leaked photograph would destroy everything they'd sacrificed to build. Subscribe now to discover the devastating truth about 10 iconic stars who paid for fame with their very souls. James Dean, The Rebel Angel, and Deals Made in Darkness. Hollywood, summer 1951. James Dean arrived from Indiana at 20 years old. No connections, no money, no auditions lined up. All he possessed was a haunting face and a kind of innocence easily controlled. That made him perfect prey for the secret talent scouts operating out of the Chateau Marmont Hotel, nicknamed the after-hours casting office for the industry's most powerful men. According to a bartender who worked the ground floor bar, Dean attended private parties where young men weren't called by their real names, but by numbers. Dean was number 6. He had sad eyes and messy curls. People liked him. Most importantly, he was quiet, didn't ask questions, didn't fight back. Rogers Brackett, a seasoned theater director from New York, became one of the first to bring Dean out of the shadows. Brackett wasn't just a lover, he was a sponsor. The price Dean paid was steep. Actress Christine White, who lived near Brackett's apartment, recalled hearing Dean crying in the bathroom at 3 a.m. more than once. But the next morning, he'd still show up on set, looking like nothing had happened. Dean's career began to rise after a string of on-demand visits. He was escorted to upscale parties, serving cocktails and other services not listed on any menu. On one occasion, he was asked to spend the night with an older investor in exchange for a television role on CBS. Dean didn't say no. He knew that if he could just get on screen, he wouldn't have to wash dishes anymore at that diner near Sunset Boulevard. According to a late close friend, Dean was once secretly filmed in a Wilshire Boulevard penthouse while privately entertaining a studio executive. That tape later became leverage, ensuring Dean never dared to break away from the web of power wrapped around him. From that point forward, Dean's life was no longer his own. What he wore, where he went, who he dated, everything was arranged by unnamed, faceless handlers. Many believe this very group was the reason Dean became increasingly withdrawn, cold, and suspicious, like someone who thought he was being watched every single day. Dean traded his body for fame, but what he received wasn't lasting glory. After just 3 breakout performances, he died in a mysterious car crash in 1955, right when his career was only beginning. Rock Hudson, the gentleman escort behind closed doors. Rock Hudson wasn't just a Hollywood icon. He was the premium gift at parties no fan was ever invited to. As early as the 1950s, when he was just a young hopeful at Universal, Rock was placed on the list of high-potential pretty boys by Henry Wilson, the most powerful manager in Hollywood, famous for training actors straight from the bedroom. Hudson had a chiseled physique, a cinematic face, and a deep, seductive voice. But it wasn't talent that got him chosen. In a studio memo leaked in 1989, one of Wilson's former assistants had handwritten, "He's obedient, discreet, and always ready to accompany clients if I nod." They called Hudson the perfect companion. He never asked who he was meeting, never said no. From the Beverly Hills Hotel to Palm Springs Estates, Hudson always arrived with a polite smile, poured drinks, made charming conversation, and if needed, walked into a bedroom without another word. A recorded phone call between Wilson and producer Ross Hunter, later published in full service by Scotty Bowers, once revealed, "He can handle 2 people a night as long as no one takes pictures. Other than that, as long as they want." When Hudson became a sensation with Pillow Talk and Magnificent Obsession, he wasn't just the media's darling, but also the most expensive asset in secret fundraising parties hosted by film moguls. Rumors swirled that every time Hudson showed up at one of these exclusive gatherings, studios secured millions in underground investments from wealthy backers. No one knows how many people he actually slept with, but after his death, a crumpled note was found with a haunting scribble. "I was never allowed to say no." Hudson lived as Hollywood's perfect gentleman, but behind closed doors, he was a commodity traded among powerful men who controlled not just his career, but his very existence. Sal Mineo, the star murdered by a past he couldn't bury. Sal Mineo, the handsome actor who played James Dean's best friend in Rebel Without a Cause, was a star that rose fast and fell even faster. Behind the spotlight lay a past he was never allowed to speak of. In 1955, at just 16, Sal was invited to the private home of a famous producer for a personal dialogue session. He later told a friend, "They said I'd get the part if I could convince them I was soft enough." That night, Sal stayed. The next morning, his name was on the official audition list for Rebel. Sal never denied it. In a 1973 TV interview that was cut from the broadcast, he said bluntly, "In Hollywood, if you don't satisfy them, they won't remember your name." After Dean's death, Sal spiraled. He was used, discarded, and eventually turned to selling himself as a way to survive. According to The Advocate, Mineo had exclusive arrangements with 2 directors in Palm Springs, trading sexual favors for minor roles in B-movies. By the late 1960s, Sal tried to reclaim his career. He directed plays, joined independent art projects, and began speaking out about Hollywood's hidden horrors. A week before his murder, Sal told a CBS reporter, "I've got names, photos, tapes. If something happens to me, go find them." On February 12, 1976, Sal Mineo was stabbed to death outside his apartment in West Hollywood. Police ruled it a robbery, but his wallet remained untouched. His watch was still on, and his briefcase, rumored to contain all the evidence he was about to expose, vanished. Sal Mineo's death is a reminder that some truths will kill you before the audience ever hears them. His murder remains officially unsolved, but many believe he was silenced for threatening to reveal the exploitation system that had consumed his youth and career. Montgomery Clift, the sorrowful eyes of a man who sold his body. Montgomery Clift never smiled for long in front of the camera. His gaze always carried a quiet sadness, as if it didn't belong to this world. That made sense because Hollywood was a place where he once sold himself just to land a supporting role. According to diary entries left by Elizabeth Taylor, Clift once confided, "In my youth, a friend introduced me to a stage director to trade intimacy for a part. When Taylor asked if he regretted it, Clift simply said, 'No, but every time I remember it, I feel like a part of me died.'" In 1945, before anyone knew his name, Clift agreed to a private audition at a Bel Air mansion where acclaimed director Joshua Logan was looking for a fresh face. After the session, Clift stayed there for 3 days. An elderly housemaid recalled in Clift, "The untold story. He cried a lot, but when he left, he had a contract in his hand." Even later, when fame came, Clift dodged every question about how it all began. Once, when asked by Variety, he answered, "I started in theater, and in a few rooms where no one was watching." Clift lived in loneliness, battled alcohol addiction, and died with a crooked smile. No one knows what secrets he took to the grave. But But those who knew him understood that his haunted expression wasn't acting. It was the permanent mark left by the transactions that bought his career. His beauty captivated audiences, but inside, Clift carried the weight of every compromise he'd made. The sadness in his eyes wasn't mysterious or romantic. It was the visible scar of a soul that had been traded piece by piece until almost nothing remained. Clift became one of cinema's greatest actors, but the price he paid was measured in parts of himself he could never reclaim. Tab Hunter, the teen idol, and relationships. No one could know. In the 1950s, no one outshone the golden glow of Tab Hunter, the bright smile, the chiseled frame, the all-American boy. But behind the idol facade was a truth Hunter had to bury for half a lifetime. In 1950, at just 19, Hunter was arrested at a gay party in Long Beach, a scandal that nearly destroyed his career before it began. A powerful, unnamed producer bailed him out, not with money, but with an exclusive 5-year contract. When asked about the scandal later, Hunter would only smile faintly and say, "I didn't lose anything. Just had to stay the night with someone I couldn't say no to." Throughout his golden years, Hunter was forced into fake romance contracts with young actresses, Natalie Wood, Debbie Reynolds, all to cover up his real relationships. The studio machinery manufactured a heterosexual fantasy while controlling every aspect of his actual life. Later in his memoir, Tab wrote, "I wasn't chosen for my acting. I was chosen because I was willing to be quiet and beautiful in the way Hollywood needed." The contract that saved him from scandal also enslaved him to silence. Hunter attended countless private gatherings where his presence was required not for his talent, but for his compliance. He learned early that his survival depended on playing the role assigned to him, both on screen and off. The smile that charmed millions was often a mask covering fear and resignation. Tab Hunter lived for decades as Hollywood's golden boy, while simultaneously existing as a prisoner of the image created for him. Only after retiring did he dare admit the truth in his autobiography. By then, he was elderly, and the power structure that once controlled him had moved on to new victims. Hunter survived, but at the cost of living most of his life as someone else's creation. Anthony Perkins, Norman Bates, and the price of a role. Anthony Perkins was once Hollywood's darling, dreamy eyes, tall, slender frame, and a shy, delicate voice that made every director want to reshape him in their own image. Before becoming Norman Bates in Psycho, Perkins wandered through New York, surviving through prearranged meetings at the Commodore Hotel. One of his regular clients was Roy Cohn, the era's most powerful attorney, who connected Perkins with media moguls looking for cultured, obedient boys to entertain their guests. An anonymous industry insider told Confidential magazine in 1965, Perkins was rare. He made people feel like they were the only one. In return, they gave him roles. It was Alfred Hitchcock himself who allegedly bought out Perkins from another studio with a contract rumored to include a secret clause requiring Perkins to remain intimately available throughout the production of Psycho. In unpublished letters to an ex-boyfriend revealed in 2007, Perkins wrote, "I'm not afraid to die for a role. I'm afraid people will find out how I had to die slowly to earn it." After Psycho, Perkins was typecast, not just on screen, but in life. In 1972, he told a psychologist, "I'm no longer me. I'm a deal, a gift that was traded." Perkins spent his career haunted by the transactions that built it. His portrayal of Norman Bates, a man trapped by his past, unable to escape the violence that defined him, wasn't entirely acting. Perkins understood what it meant to be imprisoned by secrets, to perform a role even when the cameras stopped rolling. He married late in life, had children, and tried to construct a conventional existence. But those who knew him said the sadness never left. Perkins died of AIDS in 1992, And with him went the full truth of what he endured to become one of cinema's most iconic figures. Cary Grant, the perfect gentleman, and nights spent surviving. Off strangers. Cary Grant was once hailed by the press as the husband every woman dreams of. But the truth lay on the opposite end of that fantasy. For nearly 2 decades at the start of his career, Grant lived with actor Randolph Scott, a relationship that magazines curiously described as inseparable companions. At their Malibu beach mansion, the pair hosted private parties for directors, screenwriters, and studio financiers, gatherings where, according to Scotty Bowers, the famed male escort matchmaker of the elite, Cary Grant didn't just entertain. He orchestrated behind-the-scenes exchanges. On one occasion, as recounted by a cinematographer, Grant invited 3 directors to his home, then disappeared with them into a locked second-floor room. A week later, he landed the leading role in Bringing Up Baby. It didn't stop there. A leaked memo from Columbia Pictures in 1942 mentioned Grant's complete compliance with after-hours studio-arranged activities, including support for the studio's key financial partners. Even after becoming a household name, Grant couldn't or wouldn't step away. Confidential magazine once investigated a 1955 incident where Grant was spotted leaving the Biltmore Hotel at 2 a.m. alongside an anonymous European backer, just days before signing on for To Catch a Thief with Hitchcock. Perhaps that's why he married 5 times but never truly settled with anyone. Even as tabloids swarmed, Grant never once responded, because he knew silence was the only thing that could keep him alive in a Hollywood full of traps. Grant's elegance on screen was manufactured perfection, but the cost of maintaining that image was paid in private rooms where his consent was never truly his own. The perfect gentleman was a role he played so well that even he may have forgotten where the performance ended and the real person began. Marlon Brando, the man who slept his way into roles. Brando once declared bluntly at a press party in 1975, "I slept with anyone who could give me a part. Male or female, it didn't matter, as long as they had power." This quote was later cited by Vanity Fair in a 2001 special dossier on Brando, serving as living proof of the true dark side of American cinema. Back in the 1940s, Brando was hustling on small New York stages. Director George Cukor bought Brando for $300 a week in exchange for late-night private line rehearsals in his Beverly Hills luxury apartment. It was Cukor himself who later phoned Elia Kazan to recommend Brando, leading to his legendary casting as Stanley Kowalski in A Streetcar Named Desire. But Brando didn't stop at one man. He slept with directors, producers, even reporters, as long as they could get him closer to the spotlight. In a leaked personal diary found after his death, Brando listed 14 men who had helped him with both body and money. One of them was Jack Warner, the tycoon behind Warner Brothers, who once rescued Brando from a sex scandal in 1953 so he could go on to star in Julius Caesar. Brando was remarkably open about these transactions, treating them not as shameful secrets, but as pragmatic career moves. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Brando refused to live in shame. His brutal honesty about Hollywood's exploitation system was revolutionary, though it came only after he'd achieved enough power that the truth couldn't destroy him. Brando's willingness to acknowledge what others denied exposed the reality that talent alone never guaranteed success in Hollywood. Behind every breakthrough role were negotiations that had nothing to do with acting ability and everything to do with who you were willing to let control your body. Brando survived by being honest about the game he'd played and won. Ramon Novarro, the silent film legend, who died on a stranger's bed. On October 31, 1968, police found Ramon Novarro dead in his Laurel Canyon home. His throat was strangled with a phone cord, mouth stuffed with tissue, dried blood all around. His killers were Paul and Tom Ferguson, two young hustlers he had called. They believed Novarro was hiding money in the house. The case turned darker when reporters uncovered a list of special clients Novarro had entertained from the 1930s to 1950s, directors, politicians, and A-list stars. One of them confessed on the witness stand. "I met him when I was 17. He said, 'Just behave and I'll get you in a film.' And he did." Novarro had once been a massive silent film star, often compared to Rudolph Valentino. But as his career faded, he survived by selling himself under fake names, arranging encounters through intermediaries, living a double life that grew increasingly dangerous as he aged, and his value in Hollywood's sexual marketplace diminished. By the time of his death, Novarro was 69 years old, still arranging encounters with young men, still trying to maintain some connection to the world that had once celebrated him. The two brothers who killed him were looking for a fortune that no longer existed. Novarro had spent decades selling himself, but by the end, he had nothing left. Even as a legend, he died alone and disgraced, just another body no one wanted to claim. His murder revealed the brutal reality that Hollywood's exploitation system didn't end when careers faded. It simply became more desperate, more dangerous, and ultimately more deadly. Novarro's death stands as perhaps the darkest ending to a life that began in silent film stardom but ended in violence, born from the very system that created him. Scotty Bowers, the secret broker of classic Hollywood. If anyone knew who slept with whom in classic Hollywood, it was Scotty Bowers. A former Marine, Bowers became the unofficial pleasure coordinator for the entire industry. Starting from a humble gas station on Hollywood Boulevard from 1946 onward, Scotty wasn't just pumping gas. He was introducing young men to VIP clients. Many were aspiring actors, unknown models, or recently discharged servicemen looking for work in post-war Los Angeles. In his memoir Full Service, 2012, Bowers recalled, "Rock Hudson, Cary Grant, Spencer Tracy, they were all clients. I was just the middleman." He claimed to have arranged over 1,000 encounters over 3 decades and participated in more than a third of them himself. "They came to me because they had no choice," Bowers explained. "They needed roles. They needed rent. They needed to survive." Bowers operated with near impunity for decades. His gas station became a known location where powerful men could arrange discreet encounters with young men desperate for a break in Hollywood. The system was so well established that it functioned almost like a legitimate business, complete with regular clients and preferred providers. What made Bowers unique was his willingness to document and later expose the system. His memoir named names, detailed encounters, and provided evidence that Hollywood's casting couch extended far beyond the heterosexual exploitation most people imagined. Scotty was never sued, never caught on tape during his active years. When he died in 2019 at age 95, he left behind a vault of names, hundreds of icons who once lay down just to stand under Hollywood's lights. Bowers didn't see himself as an exploiter, but as a facilitator who helped young men survive in an industry designed to use them. Whether that self-perception was accurate remains debatable, but his documentation of the system provided undeniable proof of how Golden Age Hollywood really operated behind closed doors. These 10 men represent a fraction of those who paid Hollywood's hidden price. Behind every perfect smile and commanding screen presence lay transactions that stripped away dignity, autonomy, and often the very sense of self. The Golden Age wasn't golden for everyone. For many, it was an era of exploitation disguised as opportunity. Some, like Brando, survived by refusing shame. Others, like Mineo and Novarro, paid with their lives for threatening or embodying truths Hollywood wanted buried. Many lived entire careers in fear, wearing masks so convincing that even they forgot who existed beneath. The question remains, Has this system truly ended, or has it simply evolved into more sophisticated forms of control? Power imbalances persist wherever ambition meets gatekeeping. These stories serve as reminders that behind Hollywood's manufactured dreams lie human costs we're only beginning to acknowledge. Subscribe to explore more untold histories and share your thoughts. Would you trade everything for fame or choose authenticity over stardom? The answer reveals more about Hollywood's hold on our imagination than we might want to admit.